So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 17e, is it a waste of money? Let's go ahead and talk about that in this video. Let's go straight over to the pre-order page. You can see you can get this in soft pink now, the white like you see I'm holding right here, and you can get the black. Now this phone right here is actually the 16e, but for the first time ever I can actually make a video using this phone and you're actually looking at the same exact body. Zero difference, not even a single difference. Besides, the weight is slightly heavier because of the magnets for MagSafe. So let's go ahead and discuss this phone in this video and if it's a good pick or if it's a waste of money for you. So first of all, just want to state that some of the goodies that are improved are you finally have MagSafe on the iPhone 17e, so no issues with that no more. You also are going to get an upgraded CPU. So you do go from the Apple A18 in this one to the Apple A19 chip, which is the newer chip, which is good. And you get the C1X modem, which is going to be a bit better for phone call quality, as well as reception strength and stuff like that. Now the build and design, is it a waste of money here in 2026? And I'd say not really. Most phones at this price are kind of like this feel. They kind of have aluminum builds. I mean, even the 17 has aluminum build. And if you actually hold the 17 and hold the 16e, 17e, they kind of have the same type of materials. They don't feel that much different, except the 17 does feel a little bit smoother in the corners. But other than that, it's just really that added camera. The actual body feels about the same. So not really a waste of money in terms of that aspect. Where it is questionable though, and definitely I would say probably a waste of money, is the actual hardware itself on the front. I mean, this is a 60 hertz display and it stays that way. It's also a notch display, which is something we've seen way back on the iPhone 10, but it's essentially the notch from the iPhone 13. Still, it feels extremely dated at this point. Regardless if you are a phone fanatic or not, you'll just see everyone else with a phone that just looks way more modern than this, most likely, whether it's dynamic island or it's a punch hole display or maybe an all screen on some phones or even foldable or flip phones. So this phone definitely feels very behind the times with that. Now, it's definitely a downgrade from a lot of devices with a single camera as well in terms of just having one. Where it's not a downgrade is this single camera is a fusion camera. It's actually very strong performance for people who just use the basics. So the actual camera itself, definitely not a waste of money. It's a good you could punch 2x on it. You can go 10x on a single camera. If you remember back in the day, you could only go like up to 5 times on the single on the camera. Now, even with one camera, you can go up to 10. So it's actually very usable, and the video is still rather good. This is still iPhone quality video, which is to say very smooth focus, very smooth results, and really good with social media. So I don't think for people who are just basic camera users, it's not really a big waste because you are going to get good value out of the camera. But if you are, looking at the competition for this price, you can get even some yesteryear secondhand 15 Pros, probably cheaper than a 17e. So do keep in mind that those options are available. And it does feel a little bit like a step back when you look at, an iPhone 13 from years ago having a dual setup. The real thing I miss here to recommend is the ultra wide. So the 17e not giving you ultra wide, but at least it's bringing back this pink like you've seen on the iPhone 13. So if you enjoyed this subtle pink, I think you're going to enjoy the new one, the 17e as well. But yeah, the back of the iPhone, 13s used to have glass on board, so they actually felt a little nicer. They also had this was more of their premium base model back in the day, so it still felt a little bit more premium. But this does feel like you are, making some sacrifices to really get that lowest price possible to get into the Apple ecosystem. So let me know your take on the overall hardware. For me, it's kind of a mix up. Like, I do like the aluminum edges. I don't mind the look of a single camera. I think it's a minimal clean aesthetic, but it just looks very dated when we look at the whole tech market, smartphone market in 2026. You also do get Face ID, which is a similar feature you'll find on the iPhone 17. Still the slower USB-C ports on the bottom of 17e, so not for transfer. This phone is not designed for pros transferring large files. Do keep that in mind. You aren't getting that. but it does have at least the action button, which you'll find on pretty much most phones since like iPhone 15 Pro series. So definitely has that if that matters to you. I don't really care too much for it. 17E does not give you a camera control button. This is not their main camera beast phone, but I do think that there's a lot about the phone that can be liked, especially one area, software. You're going to get the same type of software that you'll find on an iPhone 17, 17 Pro, and it's going to be supported for several years to come with an A19 chip. Even on this base level, this is where Apple will shine. You'll be able to have like a really good software experience over time. However, you are going to be running it at a 60 hertz panel, which is to say a little bit slower feeling than the nicer, more premium phones. And it's always going to feel like it's not quite as smooth as those top tier levels. So if that's something that bothers you, I probably would say this is probably a waste for you at that point. But there are some other things we can talk about, like the display. So the display here, not going to get quite as bright as a Pro. It's also going to have thicker bezels because it is the E model. They're not huge, but they just look very iPhone 13 and it's 2026. So this definitely feels like a 4 or 5 year old kind of feel at this point, which that to me is hard to justify when you look at mid-rangers from other brands that look up to date with their displays. So for that reason, this is one of the things that doesn't make it feel very new. It feels like a leftover phone. That's kind of how it feels to me, honestly. So the next thing is the ProMotion. While a lot of people say, I don't really see it, I don't care. And, you know, Nick, you're not understanding. The people that get the 17E don't really care about ProMotion. And I understand your point, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be available when the entire market has ProMotion, or they have 60 hertz, above 60 hertz panels. You don't have to be a tech enthusiast to have that. I mean, now even the base 17 has it. So I think the entire line should have ProMotion. It's just such a standard thing on most phones having that higher refresh. So I think this might be the last E version we see with that. Hopefully the next one just kind of comes with that. It's like a standard feature to me at this point. It used to be a more premium feature. Now it just feels like you're just behind with that. That's just my take on that area. And that's one of the ones you notice the most because you are going to be scrolling every day, using the display every day. And if you use anybody else's phone for even a minute and start scrolling, you're going to feel like it looks a little bit choppier on your phone. So that's just something to keep in mind with this device. If performance is one of your main things, I do think even with the 60 hertz, it's going to outperform a lot of other Android phones. And that's one of the areas where it's definitely not a waste of money. If you care about chip performance, a lot of mid-rangers ain't giving you the high-end chip. The A19 is a high-end chip at a lower price tier. Now, some mid-rangers do though. So it's not all of them, but some don't. Some will give you more of those medium level Snapdragon CPUs. But this one right here, giving you the A19 chip. So definitely, I gotta say 17E is probably worth it if chip performance matters to you. Now, camera, we talked about that a bit. My main thing with the camera is it's a get the job done kind of camera. This is going to be a really good phone for those businesses that buy phones for employees in bulk. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has this phone for work. I think this is going to be a great option, you know, for companies to pick up and stuff like that. But for individuals, I think who are investing in an iPhone for a long-term use case scenario, I do think their money's better served going with something like a base model 17. That's just my take on it so far. Battery life, not necessarily a waste of money. 16E was great on battery life, and the 17E is going to be no different here. It's going to be just probably even better with the newer chip. So I think for battery life, that's a good thing. And I also like how they dumped the 128 gig storage for the same price. You go to 256 gigs. That's a little bit of a shocker. I do like this because you've been hearing about the storage, you know, price increases, but you're getting 256 gigs now base for the same price as last year. So that is actually, that's a classic Apple move. They've done this before. The previous year's base model had to get less storage, and then you wait 1 year and you get more storage. But definitely, I do think that is a really good, strong offering when it comes to storage. Because back in the day, you'd pay $799 for a 16, or not a 16, but like a 64 gig iPhone. You pay $650 for some 16 gig iPhone. So storage, good value in storage, that is for sure. Some special features that do come on board with 17E on this device are going to include things like Ceramic Shield 2. So they've improved the front glass. That's actually pretty good. That's a good upgrade. These ceramic shields on these newer iPhones have been pretty decent at scratch resistance as well as crack resistance. They're pretty strong displays. Still, I always put a screen protector for the most protection, but nice to see that. The MagSafe charging is a real upgrade, and it's kind of, this S26 Ultra just launched and doesn't have any Qi 2 charge, doesn't have the magnetic charging. Samsung says this is because most people are going to be using cases, so it's kind of not necessary, and they could save weight by not doing it. And that is true. You are going to save weight because if you look at the 16E, it's actually 3 grams heavier now on the 17E. Not that that matters. They're only in the neck of the woods of 160 to 170 grams. But at the same time, that weight savings on a bigger phone like the Ultra might make more sense. But still, the thing is that we have an Ultra phone that doesn't have magnetic charging, and a base iPhone has MagSafe. So that is actually good value, I think, for the price, the MagSafe. Now, does this do better than anything else in terms of daily use? And I think it does do some things better. If you want a phone that's minimal, it's not really distracting, it's simple. That's actually a psychological benefit you probably don't think about much. It's just you could set this phone up to be your minimal daily. Just your don't distract me daily. Get the black one, single camera. Download your apps, be on your way. It's a pretty simple setup. With the iPhone 17, I'm gonna play with it a little bit more. It's got the nice smooth display, dual camera setup. It just feels nice. I'm probably playing with that a little bit more. Take me over to the Max. I'm on it all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, this could be that minimal, don't bother me, basic, just simple communications phone too. That's a good option for this right here. And if you did like some of the iPhones from back in the day, maybe the 13 or that just kind of general shape, you might really like the iPhone 17e. But the thing about this phone is just simply not exciting. Let's just be real. I'm going to just tell you like it is. It's not exciting. It's a nice option, but it's not exciting. And value is subjective. In terms of, you look at the market, I don't think the value is super strong on 17e, but it is going to be something that's could be valuable for those of you who just don't, you're price sensitive and you just don't want to buy, or it's just not in your budget to buy the higher end iPhones. Now, I don't say buy the phone outright, but when you do buy the iPhone 17s or whatever, you can still trade in. And a lot of times your older phone, like if you took the iPhone 13, you could reduce the cost of this to get actually lower than the starting price of the 17e. However, of course, you can also do that in the 17e and get that extremely low. Also, you can get a 16e. I think it's like a straight talk version, like a Walmart version for $299. That's essentially the same phone with slight differences. So, and very slight. This is one of the most slight upgrades ever. But definitely, that's something to keep in mind. So you're going to pay $600 for a 17e. You can get straight talk version. I think it's like $299. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's just something I've seen available. There's probably some videos about that as well. But is it a waste of money? The answer is, my final verdict is, in my take, yes. I think it's a waste of money for most folks because you could just spring a little bit more or even just trade your phone in and get a 17. It's a much superior phone. It's more future proof. It feels more with the times. And the only real reason to get this one is if you're just like, nah, bro, I'm getting the cheapest new iPhone possible. I'm not looking at no secondhand 15 Pro, 16 Pros. I actually seen some 15 Pro Maxes for probably close to the price of the 512 gig 17e. So you have to think about that too. You could actually get what was just previously a year or two old premium flagship if you're able to go, if you're willing to look secondhand market. And there are some places that sell extremely mint condition phones. So like, don't think like you can't get a darn near new feeling Pro phone, but you could. But I think this is going to be a great phone for those bulk business buyers, for employees, and for those people who are just trying to give this to like, their grandmother or something like that, or casuals. People are just not into they don't even care about the latest. They're just like, I'm trying to save the most buck. And it's actually a good time to launch a phone like this at this price point in 2026, because the overall smartphone market has been pretty high, and with the economy the way it is, I think is actually a good timing on Apple's part. But I still feel like it would have been a better deal at like $499. It's kind of getting close to that 17 price, and that's what makes me scratch my head quite a bit. So that's my take on the iPhone 17e. I'm not sure if I'm going to cover it in full, like if I'm even going to order one. Let me know if you guys are interested. I'll consider it if like many of you are really interested, but I don't know. Personally, in my opinion, I usually am very excited about most iPhones, but this one I'm simply just not that excited about, and that's the truth. But that doesn't mean just because I'm personally not excited that I won't cover it for you. So if you do, if a lot of you want to see some coverage on that, let me know down below. I'll consider making a video on it if it's requested enough. But I'll catch you all on the next one. So yeah, that's my take. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well. I'll catch you on the next one, and peace.